Hey, Jason. Well, it says we're live. Hello, everyone. It's 4 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock on the East Coast, midnight in Dublin, 1 a.m. Wednesday morning in London and most of Europe, 8:30 and 9:30 a.m. Wednesday morning in Australia, 11:30 in a.m. Wednesday morning in New Zealand, I think. And it's Facebook Live. Hello, hello, and welcome. It's really great to be with everyone. I wish we had like a panoramic view of everyone that's here so I could see your face as you see ours. Sometimes difficult to talk into a computer, you know, but we'll make the best of it. And got a great guest today. Jason Prall he and I have been friends walking similar paths for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe close now, maybe somewhere around that amount of time. And Jason is a film producer and director. And we're going to talk to you about a new one today on a topic that I don't think many people have heard about or really have thought about how to access, and that's the healer within ourselves, and how do we turn on all of that healing energy. And so Jason, welcome, man. It's nice that you're here today.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I would say, I don't know if we've been walking the same path. I've been probably following your footsteps for the past 10 years. You were one of the first people to kind of turn me on to the integrative health space, functional medicine space. I learned a ton from you years and years ago, and you really kind of set me on the path. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That feels really good. Thank you. Marzi's not here because I'm in San Diego today. I'm on a bit of a speaking tour, so I've got to find our Facebook myself so I can answer. The questions will be posted where we can see them here on the computer, but I like to say hello to everyone who comes on board and with us, and so I'll do that once I can bring this thing up. Hello to everyone. Oh, there we go. Hey, I'm getting better at this. I'm not too old of a fart, I guess. You know, that's great. So who are we starting with? We're starting with hello from Long Island, Dr. Tom and Jason, and that's from Wanda. Hi, Wanda. And Homa's in California, Dorada's New York. Brian says thanks. You're welcome, Brian. Jillian says hello from Cleveland. Really looking forward to this talk. Great. Charlene says hello from Florida. A brand new CGP. High five, girl. Come on, put your hand up there. Way to go. Thank you so much. For those of you that don't know, CGP is a certified gluten-free practitioner. We have a training course for that. And after each section, you pass a quiz, you get to go to the next section. You don't pass a quiz, you don't move forward. But it's not that we need you to memorize this stuff. We just say, you know, go back to slide 42 and then answer the question again. You go back, oh yeah, that's right. So you just need to know how to access the information, but it's a game changer. Susie's here from Sydney. Hey, Susie, tell us the time there. Is it 8:30 or 9:30 Wednesday morning? Stephanie's in Asheville. Zorica's in Chicago. I'm coming to Chicago tomorrow, actually. And the list goes on, and we'll go on and on. So we've got this time together. Jason, let's start by talking about, what do you mean by the healer within?
Yeah,
what is that?
I mean, this is something that's easy to forget when we're dealing with chronic issues, chronic symptoms. That the healer within is the same healer that shows up when you cut your finger, when you bite your tongue, right? We think nothing of these little things, that we are confident that the body's going to heal itself, no matter how old we are, whether we're 3, 33, or 93. These things happen, right? And so what I'm pointing to is what's really going on there. There's something magical that we forget about, we have access to, and that is still there, even when we're dealing with chronic issues, chronic symptoms that seem to be consistently showing up or recurring. The healer within is still there. And so it's just pointing to this idea that there's something there that if we can align with, if we can remove the obstacles, if we can remove the interference patterns, then something's going to naturally occur that's going to induce healing.
Now, that's great. Thank you. And In the last book I wrote, I talked about a pyramid of health. And we think of a pyramid as being three-sided, but no, it's four-sided. There's also a base, right? And I talk about structure, biochemistry, emotional, spiritual, and electromagnetic. And that for any health problem, we have to look at all four sections to see where's the dominant insult coming from that has accumulatively caused the problem, whatever the problem is. You can't just take a pill and forget about if you're going to sleep at night next to, and right on the nightstand is an alarm clock that's leaking EMFs off the roof. And you're taking sleep medication for quite a while. So you can't just take the medication thinking that fixes the problem if the problem's the EMFs. And that's just one example. In this event that you're hosting, do you talk about all four sides, or do you mostly focus on one side? What's the story on that?
Yeah, so we really do try to cover all sides. We do, I would say, we heavily focus on emotional trauma, on the sort of more mental, emotional, spiritual component, belief systems, where those come from. So we had you on.
That's going to cause most people to do this right away. Well, I don't have any emotional problems, I'm fine. And if you find that you had that thought immediately when Jason said that, that's you. That's who we're talking to you. Well, I don't have any emotional problems. Oh, okay. Well,
well, that's just it, right? Like we actually, every single human that's walking this earth has some of this stuff going on, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to turn our backs away from. In fact, it's something to embrace. It's something to recognize. It's something to look into, because once we get a sense for what's causing the thought patterns, the belief patterns, the emotional patterns, the behavioral patterns, the addictive qualities. I mean, gluten, this is a big one. So many of us are addicted to the breads and the gluten contain. This is why you even today still see so many gluten-free bread products, because like we have to go toward these bread things. So there's these patterns, there's these things that go on in our lives. And so what I'm suggesting is that there's something underneath that. There's something that is creating a belief system, that's creating an emotional pattern, a mental pattern. When you find yourself stressed out, when you find yourself overly anxious or a little bit depressed or a little bit withdrawn, what's really going on there? What's causing that? And so which isn't to say that this is everything, right? It is just a piece of the puzzle that I find many of us are still struggling to identify. And some of us, even when we identify it, we don't know what to do with it. So when I was really working heavily as a practitioner one-on-one, I was working like you, Dr. Tom, with all kinds of chronic illnesses. And many people I was able to see, they were able to see really, really good results. They were able to get better and then there was a handful of people I just couldn't get to the sort of finish line, so to speak, to the point where they felt good. And what I realized was that I lacked the tool set to deal with these sort of emotional traumas, these bigger belief systems, mental emotional patterns that are underneath some of the lifestyle habits and things that I was training. And so I was doing all the functional medicine stuff, running all the tests, and we were doing metabolic panels and all kinds of stuff. And we found a lot of great things. But what you can't find with those tests is what's going on in the mental structure, in the belief systems, in the emotions. And this is where it just requires a different tool set. And so not better, not worse, but let's incorporate all of it. And that's really what we're trying to focus on.
What do you think is a suggestive observation that you as an individual can see in a person who likely has a emotional energy emergency brake? And my concept of an emergency brake is you're backing onto the driveway and say, what's wrong with this car? Why is it? Oh, the emergency brake. And then you back out really easily. So it's like you're just not aware of it. But what might be some of the indicators where a person would likely find value out of exploring this topic?
So there's so many. One that I would say we actually value in our society is the perfectionist, or the overachiever, or the one that's always so driven and successful, right? The Gary Vaynerchuk's of the world, the Steve Jobs of the world, right? It's not a bad thing that we're chasing and we're doing and we're accomplishing and we're successful and all these things. This is a very, very good indicator that there's a reason why the success-driven personality shows up. There's something there. Was it that we weren't getting love and attention and acceptance unless we excelled when we were a child? So we lay down these habits, these personality patterns of who we become when we're young, out of getting our needs met. There's a really, really good reason. And none of these are bad. They're actually really, really good, successful patterns. The question is, how do we do them from alignment? How do we make sure that they're not maladaptive? Right. And so that's a really, really easy one to point to, but there are so many. There is the hothead. This is me. I run this pattern. So pretty neutral, calm. And then once I get overly tipped, then explosion. Then this is a very common one. Another pattern would be the one who kind of withdraws or goes inward or down in their energy. So they basically, whenever they get overwhelmed, they just shut down. They withdraw. They just completely back out of the whole scenario. You might find this when in a confrontation or when you're interacting with somebody and they literally just they're done. And
now that's really interesting. You know, for those that say, well, you know, I just kind of back off because it's not worth it or whatever. So if you back off, if you, in some words, shut down, might that have an effect on your body function?
Absolutely.
And then the answer is, well, it might. And what body function might shut down? Well, it depends. It can be anything. It can be your bowels and you get constipated, or it can be your thyroid that's not working so well. And you get all the cold hands and feet, hard to get up in the morning, wish you had 20 more minutes in bed, can't lose weight even if you don't eat for a few days, all thyroid symptoms, or it might be your immune system. Because if you're shutting down emotionally from some interaction with your outside world, then your physical body can also shut down wherever the weak link in the chain is.
I was just going to point to that. You know, that's something you talk about a lot. And the deal is that when we are overly stressed at the nervous system level, then it's going to start affecting us wherever our weak link is. And this can be set up by the rest of the conditions in our environment, right? So the reality is with all these patterns and emotional situations is we should be facing these. We should experience these fears and these angers and these sadnesses and all these emotions. Absolutely, we need to feel them. It's not that we don't feel them. The trick is, how do we get to feel these things, move them through the system so that we process completely and integrate, and they don't get stuck in the system. And what all of us are dealing with to some degree is emotional processes, experiences, energies that are stuck in the system. Right. And this comes from childhood. This comes from even into adulthood. We don't have the resource because at some point there was a miss. And so these things literally get stuck. There's literally a backlog of these emotions. This is what we would call trauma or conditioning or what have you. And it doesn't have to be, you know, I was abused. It can be very, very subtle conditioning over years that creates the patterns. And these energies, these processes, these emotions literally get stuck. And the nervous system's essentially elevated. The sympathetic drive is jacked up in us, in all of us to some degree. And so the question is, how do we process this backlog of experiences, emotions, so we could reset that baseline sympathetic nervous system and start to tip over into that rest, digest, parasympathetic side where all the good stuff happens.
That's really important for each of us as an individual to develop our own toolkit to do that, to do just what Jason is saying. So how does your event help that?
Yeah, so there's actually, there's a lot of discussion around what's happening, why it happens, what to point to, what to look at, because a lot of the stuff in our own experience is hidden. In other words, we're talking about a little bit of it here and somebody's saying, oh, okay, I do that. And this is what happened here. We want to develop an awareness and understanding around our personality patterns, the ego constructs that I've created in my world so that I can understand, oh yeah, this is why I am the way I am. So we can bring a little bit more acceptance to that. But then we also provide practices, actually embodied therapeutic tools so that we can start to actually move some of this stuff through with awareness. So there's actual practices, masterclass sessions that help us do that. But then again, this is not to get lost in everything else. We talk about circadian rhythm and how to optimize sleep. Dr. Tom, we have you on talking about gut health and immune function, right? We can't just focus on one area. We've got to look at everything. And once we can improve our lifestyle, our diet, our mental, our emotional capacity, everything's starting to come into alignment, right? And that's really what we're looking for.
I want people to remember what I'm about to say because you won't like it. But it's a pretty good indicator that you will find value in exploring this topic that Jason is focusing on here. And that is if you suffer from the I'm fine syndrome. And what do I mean? Hi, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, thanks. How are you? What was that? Right? That's a deflection. That's just a great deflection. None of your business how I am. How are you? Right? So, so if you suffer from saying, hi, how are you? And when someone asks you that, you say, I'm fine. Boing. So next time you catch yourself saying that, know that it's an indicator that there's a wall here. There's a blockage of you interacting with the person in front of you appropriately, whatever that means. I mean, you don't have to tell your life story to the person, but you can, so what I do a lot, not, well, I guess I'm saying that I'm an example when I do this. I wish I did it more often. But what I do, hi, how are you? Oh, I'm really good today. I feel good. How about you? And they go, oh, well, yeah, it's an okay day. Okay, all right, well, whatever. So
Yep. Yeah,
but
exactly.
yeah, when
It's
someone says, hi, how are you? Give them a little, I don't want to sound like goofy or something, give them a little love, like don't melt all over them, but just give them something to help them feel better today. Because
yeah,
bottom line,
it's
go ahead.
actually a really good practice too, just to actually tune in to how do I feel,
Yeah.
right? This is something that very few of us actually do. Is even if I just ask you right now, if you're listening or watching, tune into your body right now. What do you feel? Where do you feel it? How does it feel? Do you feel energy? Do you feel constriction? Do you feel expansion? Do you feel movement? Is it in your solar plexus, in your heart? Where do you feel things? And this is part of the practice. This is part of the method by which you can actually start to bring awareness to what's here and start to move it through, because there's a lot here. And so many of us, as you said, Dr. Tomber, we're up in our heads and we deflect and we really don't pay attention to how it is that I'm actually feeling right now. I might be feeling a little bit low, a little bit depressed, a little bit anxious, a little bit confused, a little bit
I
hot.
think that most of us think that emotions are a weakness.
Mm,
That if you're somebody says, how are you feeling? So, well, I feel dot dot dot. You think it's a weakness, but I tell you, I've got a lot of feelings going on right now because something happened that just threw me for a loop. So, I'm here and in my old um, stomping grounds where I live in California. And last night, our mastermind group was meeting, and one member didn't show up. And I had seen him a couple days before. He tested positive for COVID. 2 days later, he tested negative for COVID. He felt okay. Um, uh, but now we're 3 days after that, and he didn't show up for the meeting. And the restaurant was really close to where the meeting was. So two of us walked over to his house. Um, well, no, the meeting was at the restaurant. His house was close to where we were meeting. Two of us walked over to his house and knocked on the door, and a neighbor answered and said, yeah, Tom's sick. And in that moment, I knew right away, if I go in there, dot, dot, dot is going to happen. But this is my friend. And so I go in there and and he's really sick. His pulse ox is 90, 90.
mm,
That's not good at all.
yeah.
And some articles in the British Medical Journal say you go to the ER immediately if you have a pulse ox of 91 or less. And he had no energy at all. And I said, who's your doc? And he doesn't have a family doctor to call. And He didn't have a spouse or a partner or a significant other. He's on his own. His neighbor happened to be there. And I knew right away that, oh, and I had anger, I had frustration, I had sympathy, but the anger and the frustration is because today I'm supposed to fly to Chicago to see my grandkids for the first time in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And when I walked in that door and I looked at them, I knew, well, it's either I don't go over there and I get out of this house, or I'm not going to see my grandkids.
Yep.
And what are you going to do? If my friend dies because there was no one there to help him, well, I saw my grandkids. I mean, couldn't live with myself, right? So I spent a couple of hours there, got him set up and got a whole support team there. But then I had to call my daughter this morning and say, honey, I can't come. I can't see you guys. And this is why. And she was distressed by it, really looking forward to it, taking days off work, because I was going to be there. And so I've got a lot of emotions about this. I've got sadness, I've got grief, I've got anger. There's nothing wrong with having emotions. If you bury the emotions and I'm fine, all right, let's just move on. What's for dinner? I mean, if you just move on, all those energies get suppressed inside of you.
That's just it.
And
you got to feel them at some point.
Yeah, yeah. And if you don't feel them, you're going to feel the results eventually of all that locked up energy inside of you.
That's just it. That's just it. And it's, these emotions are not bad, not good. We don't like to feel them because of the conditioning that was that occurred when we were young, and we didn't have the resource, and we didn't know how to actually move some of these things through on a consistent basis by ourselves. Look, when we're young, when we're infants, we don't have a prefrontal cortex. Our nervous system is highly underdeveloped, and so we literally require another being, another nervous system there to help us co-regulate, right? This is why infants need to breastfeed. That's why they need hugging. They need the caressing and the cooing and the cuddling. They need this because it requires that nervous system to help regulate and get back into balance. Now, all of us have parents that failed to do that perfectly 100% of the time.
Right.
It's just not possible. So because of that, we develop these traits, these characteristics, these styles to cope, to deal with it. And these get carried into adulthood. And this is what happens when I'm overstressed. I might go to the gym. I might work out. That's my way of dealing with the stress. I might drink alcohol because I can numb it. I can escape. I might smoke. I can do any kind of drugs, pornography, sex, again, working. There's a TV, food, right? There's a million escapes for us to not deal with the emotions that are running through the system. And so the challenge is, or the opportunity is, the invitation is, can we get better at feeling those, at moving those through? Because once they are moved through, once they are integrated, we actually, we get rid of them for good, so to speak. And we get better at dealing with these emotions, at resolving these things, so that as we continue to go, when we get knocked off track, like you're talking about, Tom, because there's no way to avoid it, we're going to get bumped off our center. How can I create a scenario where I don't get bumped so far, and when I get bumped, I come right back, and it's easy? That's the trick.
I'm going to just tweak a little bit what you said, because some people's brains went, I'm not going to feel those emotions when I was traumatized, when I was raised, or, I'm not going to feel that again. No. You don't have to feel the emotions. You don't have to have a box of Kleenex next to you. What is required is that you're conscious that there's this whole pot bubbling, and you recognize it, and you work in a healthy way to begin dissipating some of that. And some of it may be feeling the emotion, some of it may, but it's not a prerequisite that you have to feel all of the pain that you felt with an event in the past. As not a prerequisite.
Right.
So
you don't have to stir in it. That's for sure.
You don't have to stir the pot.
Yep.
You just have to recognize what's in the pot.
Right.
And when you do that, and you find the right person to look with. For example, Shanquilo has a question. Hypnosis by an NLP, that's neuro linguistic programming specialist, was recommended to me, but I'm a little apprehensive about it. Any opinions?
Mm.
Jason, do you want to start with that question?
Yeah, I love it. And so what I would first invite you to do is investigate your apprehension. Why do you feel apprehensive? What's going on there? So investigate your own concern,
Yeah,
your own fear,
right.
right? And that you may discover something in that. It may be from from a pattern, or it may be from your actual true gut alignment where it's just not right for you. And it doesn't mean it's not right for everybody, but it may not be right for you. Or it may be exactly what you need, and therefore it's stirring up some fear because, oh man, we're gonna start to dive into the belly of the beast here. So all that to say, NLP hypnosis can be extremely powerful. It depends on the practitioner, just like a chiropractor, right, Tom? Chiropractor is chiropractic, but how good is the practitioner? How good is the person that you're sitting with, and is that person a right fit for you? So there's a lot to investigate there. I will say overall, it can be helpful. Does it feel right? Does the person that you're working with, or perhaps working with, feel right? That's for you to figure out. And to close on this, as we process these emotions, these backlog of things that are inevitably in our system, we actually start to become integrated, more whole. In that process, all of our faculties start to come online. Our intuition starts to come online. Our ability to discern starts to come online. So now we stop
What
looking.
does that mean, come online? Some people, I hear their brains. What do you mean, come online? My
Yep.
intuition comes online. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's really the adult aspects of ourselves. So what I'm actually talking about with all of this is that we have parts of us that are stuck in the past. I still have a 3-year-old part in my system, a 6-year-old part, a 7-year-old part. And when I get overstressed or I get overwhelmed, that 7-year-old comes out and exhibits his strategies to deal with the scenario. As we start to integrate some of these things, that 7-year-old grows up and now becomes a 40-year-old. And now so it's very much like this in our own system. We are fragmented into all these little child parts and adult parts. And when we're aligned, when everything's going good, our adult self is here. When things get a little overwhelmed, then my 3-year-old and 5-year-old start to show up and start to exhibit behaviors just like a 3 and 5-year-old. So that when I say come online, it's literally a growing up internally of our psyche. And that intuition is part of that. The intuition is inevitably there. We all have it. And I guarantee you can point to circumstances in your life where you knew something and your intuition was right on. Well, as we integrate more of ourselves, and these 4-year-old and 5-year-old parts start to grow up and become whole, integrated, and adultified, now we can rely on ourselves instead of being the 5-year-old. Because I don't know, I need to ask mom or dad or the authority figure. And I'm not shaming anybody. I still do this. We all have this aspect when we don't feel safe and we're not sure what to do. We go outside of ourselves and say, let me go find somebody who knows more than me to help. And that is a very good thing. And we have a part of ourselves that also knows. So it's a tricky thing to navigate, but that's kind of what I mean.
So, oh, great. And thank you. And I'm going to tweak it a little bit. Coming online means you're aware of it, that now you know this thing is here. Oh, boy, I just acted like a 4-year-old, or, boy, I've done that kind of response to that stress most of my life. When I'm really stressed, I've reacted the same way. And there's a difference between reacting and responding. A reaction is an automatic rebound mechanism that your nerve circuits, your brain and your neural circuits developed when you were a kid so that you could survive. And you learned to react. If dad came home and had too many beers and dad was abusive to you, you saw dad's excuse me, car pull up, you went in your bedroom and closed the door, right? That was a reaction. A response is when you see internally what you're about to do. And it was explained to me really well by a trainer for a group called EST back in 1975. I did this program, this 2-weekend program called Estes. And he said, you ever notice that sometimes you say, oh, I saw so-and-so the other day, and boy, why did I say what I said to him? That was kind of a jerky thing to do. That's not what I would have wanted to do. And then sometime down the road, you meet another person or you have a similar type of realization with somebody. Oh, but instead of 3 days later, now you're realizing it a day and a half later. Boy, yesterday morning when I saw so-and-so, I really didn't mean that. Why did I say that? And then the next time it may be 8 hours after the event occurs that you're becoming aware, you're coming online, recognizing what happened or how you reacted to somebody as opposed to responding. And then the next time it's 3 hours afterwards. Oh, when I saw Kathy this morning and I said, but that's not, I need to call her and clean that up. That's not what I meant. And then the next time it's 1 hour afterwards. And then the next time it's 20 minutes afterwards. And then the next time it's 5 minutes afterwards. Hey, Steve, what I said a few minutes ago, that wasn't right. Sorry, man, I was mistaken. And this is, I think that's great what you did. And then the next time it's 2 minutes afterwards. And then the next time your brain, you come online catching your brain about to send the message to the muscles of your tongue to say this pattern that you've done your whole life. So,
right.
People have heard me say, you want to learn how to get healthy? You have to start with the 101s first, the really basics. And then you go to 201, and then you go to 301, and then you go to 401. So what Jason's talking about, in my opinion, and what this event is about, is helping us get more conscious or come online with those energies inside of us that really aren't the person we want to be. It's the person we had to be earlier in life so that we could survive. And thank God that we had that reaction mechanism, thank God. But we're adults now. And now you can exercise new muscles. You can exercise new nerve responses. But just like you don't get a well-developed bicep in 3 days, you don't get a well-developed responsive online neural circuit in a week, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Start with the basics.
It is, and this stuff really impacts your entire reality, right? We're talking about how money shows up in your life, your relationship with money, relationship with others and other people, your job, anything and everything in your life, how happy you are. There's so many people that have seemingly everything set up for them and they're miserable. Why? What's going on there? And there's this idea that if we just achieve this thing or accomplish that thing, or when I get married, or when I have that child, or when I move, or when I have that new job, when we have that house, that things will be better. And the reality is that things shift emotionally a little bit. And then they come right back to that baseline that you're at. When things go awry, they shift and they come right back. So how do we increase that set point?
Yeah. My almost my entire adult life, certainly for my practice, has happened in the early 80s. I opened my practice in 1980, 81. And Far Side calendars. There was this cartoonist named Farside, and he'd draw really funny scenes, caricatures of people or animals, and they were hilarious. They were just great. And he had one of the ways of getting his stuff was page at a glance. So it's 365 pages for the year, and there's one you tear it off, the next day you have another one. So there was this one I had taped on the lamp on my desk forever. And it was a bird cage on a pole, a bird cage, the door open, the little bird's on the swing inside, the door is open, and he's on a pole on the beach, a couple palm trees behind them, and you can see the water. There's a sailboat off in the distance. And it said, although Hubert had found paradise, he felt mysteriously still restricted, or something like that the outer world doesn't determine your inner freedom, your inner dance with life. It doesn't matter if you get that pair of shoes or you get that house, or it doesn't matter to your happiness.
Well, and what's interesting is that as we do some of this work and we resolve some of these parts and pieces that are caught, and they become integrated. Like, let's just stay on money, for example. Two things can happen. One, literally money can start coming into your life in unimaginable ways. I've seen it. It's happened to me when I'm in alignment, it comes in, and it's very strange because I didn't come from money. That's not my reality. I had to do a lot of work around money. I still have to do a lot of work around money. So that's one reality. Money can start to come in and start to shift your reality because there's more of it. The other aspect is that your relationship starts to change with money such that you recognize, oh, I don't need as much money. And so it's literally both sides of the coin can start to shift, and you start to find ease and safety in your system despite that. Now Dr. Tom, I hope it's okay. I saw Susie comment, and I would really love to speak to it because I think it's really important. She asked, when some people have been through so much trauma, stress, and grief, where do you start? I'm in a hyper-stressed state. My body is always tight, fists often clenched, furrowed brow. Even when I'm sleeping, can we unravel all this stuck trauma? And the answer is absolutely, Susie, 100%, no question. You can resolve all of it. And it's all, and my first invitation would be to recognize the brilliance of your system. There's a reason why all those things are happening physically, and it's very, very intelligent. It's a very, very smart reaction by the body. So whenever we're dealing with any chronic disease states, any symptoms, it's a brilliance in the body. Sometimes we don't like it. I get it. I've suffered from chronic issues my entire life since I was 13 years old. So I understand. I really do. We want to get rid of them. As we can start to accept the brilliance of our system and accept that there's a reason, there's an underlying fundamental impetus for these things happening, it starts to lessen the charge. The grip starts to loosen on some of these things. And Susie, as you start to get curious about what's here, why is this way? Why am I always clenching? And what's really going on here? It's a loving curiosity that can, as we start to get curious, things can start to show up for us. The trick is, Susie, is that we need to get into the body. So there's techniques and there's modalities and there's practices that you can use to start to get into the body. I'll give you one right now, and we cover this in the summit, that is very, very useful. If somebody's dealing with a lot of stress and they don't have a lot of resource on the sort of parasympathetic side, is that we need to build up that vagal tone. And the easiest way to start doing that is just to incorporate a little bit of breath work, just some subtle breath work. And this can be box breathing, circular breathing, 4-7-8 breath. You can Google some of this stuff, but just some light breath work will start to activate the parasympathetic, will start to increase that vagal tone, and that becomes a very, very good baseline from which to do the more significant practices, the more significant work as you get into some of the more difficult processes.
Deeper. And yeah. I'm going to say I agree completely with what you've said. I'm just going to add a little explanation. The reason you do the breath work is because you have to think about breathing. And so you're focusing on your gut, you're focusing on your lungs, you're feeling the physical of your body, and you're no longer thinking or feeling that emotional stress, whatever it is, and you're working on your breathing, you're centering yourself, and then you see how easily you get knocked off. And I mean, we all get knocked off. And when you get knocked out of balance, you say, oh, I got knocked out of balance. I started thinking about this and I forgot all about my breathing for the last 3 minutes. And you'll see that happens again and again and again. But the beauty is the more you practice these basic exercises, the 101s, the more you stay connected to how you're really feeling, the clearer your emotions can come up and you can observe. The observer comes out more, the inner observer, so that you can say, oh, look what happens when, boy, if I think about that, it just disrupts everything in my butt. My gut starts to get tight. I'm breathing shallow again. I'm not deep. You start to be able to observe this stuff, but you have to develop the skill set in order to be able to observe it.
Absolutely.
And when you develop the skill set, which is what Jason's event is all about, is giving you awareness of the different tools you can use. I'm speaking for you on this because I'm sure that
You
this
got a
is
good
a
idea of it, I think. Yeah.
major emphasis. So you're going to get a number of different tools, and you'll choose which one you really resonate with, which one says, well, that just feels good to me, I'm going to do that and see what happens. And you do it for a couple of weeks or whatever it is, and you say, you know what, I haven't noticed much of a change, I'm going to go back and listen to, and I'm going to try a different one. And then you just try them, and because everybody's heard me say, you want to get from this level of health to this level of health, you need a map. And you need the map of your terrain. When I moved to California from Chicago, I didn't just head west and just end up wherever. I had the map, the GPS plugged in, take me to San Diego, right? And there's detours along the way, and you got to go around the city sometimes instead of, and so there's detours when you're doing breathing exercises. You have to learn how to sit straight when you're breathing. I mean, all these things, oh, my back hurts when I do that. That's a little detour. I mean, all these little things will come up, but as you put your bottom in the seat and do the work, it gets easier and easier. Easy is the wrong word. It gets more fluid. It gets less effort to get to that place where, oh, look at that thought. Where'd that come from? Where'd
Yep.
that come?
Tom, you hit on the essence of really what I think this summit is about, and really what I've brought into my life, and what my sort of North Star is in life, which is my objective is to make life easy, period. I'm done struggling. Like I'm tired of it, and struggling emotionally, physically, mentally, right? For finances, for relationships, for love, for connection, for acceptance. These are things that we are all struggling for to some degree. So how can we make life easy so that we rest in our being without having to effort, and literally we can walk through life in flow with ease and grace, and things show up and people show up.
I'm smiling. I'm smiling because I brought a consultant in to help us at theDr.com. Really famous guy. He's a good friend and just a brilliant guy. And I brought him in, and it was $10,000. $10,000. Like, what? Well, we need, and it was for one day. What? What? But my friends had said when they worked with him over the course of a year, they got really great results, and the staff was happier, and they enjoyed their work, and we were able to reach more people. So I said, oh, okay. So all day long, I'm looking and say, well, that's not worth that money. That's not worth that. But by the end of the day, and the goal was to come up with what's the theme of theDr.com? What's our theme? And so now we have our theme, and it's everywhere. I mean, I spent a lot of money for that theme. But the theme is in terms of your health, and it's our slogan, making it easy to do the right thing.
Yes.
And that's the goal here that Jason's talking about with the emotional or spiritual side of the pyramid of health, is making it easy to do the right thing. And you don't get it in a day, but you get the steps to implement over the course of this event, and then you practice a little bit, and you'll find your way.
This is it.
Candy has a question here. I read your book about your brain. I took out a windshield of a car in 1967 at 19. It took me 2 weeks to wake up. I was supposed to die, be blind in one eye. I had a basal skull fracture. Now I can't remember a phone number to write it down. I'm so worried about dementia. Thank you, Candy. Very sorry to hear that happened to you, Candy. And that's a reminder for all of us: wear your seatbelts. So you actually don't ask a question here, but I would give you a suggestion, and that is there is a blood test that very comprehensively identifies where is the inflammation in the brain. And it's called the Neural Zoomer Plus. and you'll find it on our website or just Google it, you'll find it. And you want to do this simple blood test that looks at 48 different markers of inflammation in the brain. I can guarantee you, you're going to have a lot of markers that are elevated. So at first glance, it's like, oh my God, what a mess. But this is really good because this is the map. Clearly, you're suffering. There's a mess in terms of brain function right now. Let's not hide from that. But what is it? Well, nobody's telling you because nobody's looking, because nobody knows. But when you have a map, now you know, okay, I've got elevated antibodies to advanced glycation end products. And that is a high inflammatory marker in the brain. Well, what does that mean? It means more raw food or gently cooked foods in your diet will help to reduce the antibodies to advanced glycation end products. So eat more salads and don't cook your vegetables until they're limp, and you'll learn things like that. So that's a step that you can take. You read the book, so you understand all about the Neural Zoomer Plus. I talk about it a lot in there. But Candy, you might want to find someone to work with that knows about that. And I gave some recommendations in the book. There is our clinical services at theDr.com. We'll put the link here for you on that one.
And I want to add some things too, which is actually not specific to that condition, but is more general. And this actually gets to the point, a large point of the summit as well, which is that there are things, no matter what our condition is, where we are perfectly healthy, whether we're dealing with cancer, whether we're dealing with gut issues, skin problems, thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions, that are universally true. How do we optimize sleep? How do we reduce the mental and emotional stress load, right? So that we're not being driven to high levels of inflammation that way. How do we eat in alignment with our constitution and our, let's say, condition, right? So depending on what we're dealing with. So there are things that we can do. How do we exercise in a way that supports your age, your condition, your situation, right? So there are things that are universal that we can pay attention to, that we can implement regardless of our
that's what Jason talks about now. And I talk about it every week, that they're the basics of reducing the inflammation in our lives. Candy, there's a couple more things I want to say to you though, because this is a serious question. I know you don't know where to go or what to do. So going through a windshield and having a basilar fracture means that your skull was traumatized, substantially traumatized. So a craniosacral therapist can make a world of difference on the structural side of the pyramid of health. And there's no question in my mind that there would be some real benefit to a craniosacral therapist, but that's not going to fix everything, but that's a component. Jason's talking about the foods that you select. Absolutely. All the biochemical side. You want to make sure that the air is clean so you're not breathing in, because of the 5 types of Alzheimer's, the most common type, 60 to 65% of Alzheimer's, is called inhalation Alzheimer's. It's what you breathe that's throwing more gasoline on the fire up in your brain, causing more inflammation. So it seems like, well, wait a minute, an air filter, why is he talking to me about having house plants in my house to keep the air clean? Because it's what you breathe that gives a direct line of inflammatory triggers into your brain. And if you read the book, you might remember reading about some of that kind of stuff. So this is a very complicated case that you have, but you just start with the base hits, just the little things that you read about in the book. Get rid of the plastic storage containers in your kitchen. Get glass storage containers, because the plasticizers in those plastic containers, they're called phthalates, they go right to the brain. And they cause lots of inflammation in the brain, which stops the brain from healing. Jason's absolutely right. Sleep is critically important. So there's all of these different things. It's going to take you 6 months to a year to develop the lifestyle to create the environment to heal. It's going to take you a while to create the environment to heal. You aren't going to feel better in a week. So just know that walking into it.
And I'll invite this too, that as you're on that journey of recovery, of improving your health, how can you be happy along the way? How can you find the good in every single day?
Yeah.
What about prayer, intention? There's magic that we have access to, and I can't explain it, but you hear it in story after story after story. I've experienced it in my own life. The power of intention or prayer is really, really something that we can access. So
Yeah.
there are these sort of, again, these are non-physical components to our reality, but hey, let's not forget about them because they're free, they're accessible, and you got nothing to lose.
When Jason talks about prayer, some people go like this. I'm not a religious fanatic. Prayer is not the answer. It's centering yourself and just clearing your mind. For some people, prayer does that. For some people, meditation does that. For some people, walks in the woods do that. It doesn't matter what you do to achieve that inner sense of awareness. Prayer is one that millions and millions of people do. Meditation is one that millions and millions of people do. And the studies are very similar on the results when you get a group of people that are doing prayer together or a group of people that are doing meditation together, very similar type of results. So don't be caught by the word prayer. It's
Right.
really good for some people, but for others, there's other ways of doing it if that's not part of your gig, if that's not something that relates for you. Peruse asks, are Zoomer tests permanent? What's the difference between the Zoomers and food sensitivity tests? The Zoomer tests are the most accurate blood test that anyone can get, excuse me, to identify if your immune system is fighting something, like the corn Zoomer. The difference with food sensitivity testing, most food sensitivity testing is IgG. That's one type of immunoglobulin. It's a good one. The Zoomers are IgG, IgA, and IgM. But the technology makes the Zoomers so much more accurate that most laboratory tests, we think you do a blood test, you get the answer. But if you were to do 2 blood draws from the same arm and label them with different people's names, both people should come back with the same test results. But they don't. The test results should be the same, but they're not with most labs. Sometimes they're very, very different. What does that mean? It means the laboratory report is not accurate. One of them is wrong, right? When they're very, very different. With the Zoomers, you don't get that kind of difference. And I've done this, I've done it a number of times where we draw blood, I'll draw, instead of 1 tube of blood, I draw 2 tubes from the same blood draw, put there like Joe Smith on one and the patient's name on the other, send them off to the lab. Joe Smith's results come back and look just almost the same. There can be a 2 to 5% difference. That's okay. That's lab fluctuation zones. That's okay. But so the Zoomers are much more, it's the most accurate technology available today. And are they permanent? No, no. They're just a marker of what your immune system is doing right now. So if you've got elevated antibodies to mercury or to phthalates, and you clean up the phthalates in your life, in 6 months, you shouldn't have elevated antibodies to phthalates anymore. The test should be negative. So it's a same day marker of what's going on. It just happens to be the most accurate technology to identify what's going on right now. Okay. Lucy says, try the link for Awaken the Healer Within, but it is not working. Thanks, Lucy, for that message. My team will look into that and get an answer here to you within just a minute. How does one who tends to procrastinate or not finish things fit into this? If I rest for a few days, I feel I can come back to the task.
Yeah, this is a funny one. I share this pattern as well, and so there's actually a lot of reasons why that might be the case. And so some of the skills that we'll be teaching in this summit actually help you identify your own cause. In other words, there's nothing that I can say is going to tell you what's your cause, but there are underlying energies, emotions, stuckness, patterns that create that scenario. And so the question is how can you get in there into your own system and figure out what it is that's creating that for you? And sometimes I'll tell you this, because I've had this in my own system. You'll clear something, you'll process something, and things shift. And you don't know why, you don't know what was going on there, but it just shifts. And so sometimes it's just a matter of processing something that's causing that. But that's a very common one. And so it does take a little bit of self-investigation to figure out what's going on.
Yes, Gabriel asked the question, love the interview. Is the Zoomer available in Canadians? Yes, it is. Just write to testing at theDr.com and they'll show you how to do it. Susie tells us it's 10 a.m. in Sydney on Wednesday morning. Thank you, Susie. Bart says, howdy, everybody. Cynthia's here from Ottawa. Really great. Sherry's here from Des Moines. Laura's here. Laura from our own team is here. Good afternoon from Oregon. Hi, Laura. Deb's here from Nova Scotia. Christian is watching. Barbara's here from Washington, Michigan. I'm from Detroit. I've never heard of Washington, Michigan. Where is that? Where is that, Barb? What's it near? Let's see. Eric Dunn's watching. We did the procrastination question. We set priorities and live with the consequences. Acceptance is key. Absolutely right, Stephanie. Absolutely right. You do the best you can. In general, I believe almost all of us are doing the best we can. And what happens when you do events like Jason's event is that your skill set improves so that you can do more or have a greater impact for the time you put into whatever is the skill that you're working on.
Well, and I'll say this too, Dr. Tom, that not only are we all doing the best we can, some of us, and I'm one of these, we're so hard on ourselves, and we don't even realize how hard on ourselves we are. And how this gets reflected, how you can notice this, is if you're hard on yourself, you'll be hard on others outside of you. So you'll be very critical, judgmental. However critical or judgmental you are of others, you're even more so on yourself. And so I say that because that pattern was laid down because there was a need for that when you were young. That if you messed up, you wouldn't get the love. Well, put it this way: you didn't perceive the love and the acceptance that was there, and so you had to be perfect. So either you were criticized or judged from outside, or things just didn't show up in a way that felt good, and so it was really scary not to make mistakes because you wouldn't get the love. And so again, this is just one of those patterns. And so I point to that because I ran this one pretty hard. I do a ton of work to try to resolve this, to be kinder to myself. And in so doing, I'm kinder to others. I'm a little softer. I'm a little easier, and I'm easier on myself. Right. And so these are some of the things as we observe and start to understand some of these concepts and ideas and maps, then we can start to recognize. We can bring some of these things that are in the shadows, that are in the darkness, into the light, and we can say, oh, that's why I do this, or I didn't realize that's how I was. That's why. It makes sense. And so there becomes a level of acceptance and a level of recognition that I'm not bad, I'm not wrong. This is a brilliant strategy because I needed to feel safe. I needed to create this. And so again, it really does create a level of acceptance for our fallibility, for our fallenness, for our errors of our ways. And we recognize, oh, everybody else is just as messed up as I am. We're all just fumbling through life, and it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Mary Agnes from our team says, hello, thanks for saying that to Susie. That's an answer for all of us right now in this crazy time. Well, thank you, MA. Thank you for that. Brian says vagal tone, also known as heart rate variability related to inhalation, exhalation. Absolutely right, Brian. That's one of the techniques. Do you talk about that in this event?
Yep. We've got a few different speakers that speak specifically on the vagus nerve, on polyvagal theory, and some strategies to improve vagal tone. What really works, what doesn't, when you would want to incorporate some versus others. It's a really, really important aspect for many people, for sure.
It's really great. Stephanie writes base hits, and I'm so glad. Thank you, Stephanie. That's really great.
Absolutely.
And that's been my theme for years now. My sister, I give gratitude for, because sometimes when I first started autographing books, I'm writing a story, and there's a line of people, and my sister's like, come on. You know, so then she said, why don't you write a message that you feel really good about that everyone would say, oh, and it's essential. And I said, oh, base hits win the ball game, Tom O'Brien. And that's
right.
so true. You know, it's put your butt in the seat, put your boots on, get out in the mud, you know, just start working it step by step by step. Base hits win the ball game. Manuela says the link to Jason's event is not working. Kindly resubmit. Okay, that's a second comment on that, team. So let's make sure we got that link working. Mary Agnes put the link in here again. So thank you for that, MA. Here's the link. And so try it from where we'll make sure it's there for you guys, for everyone. My team says link is good to go everywhere. Okay, good. Good, glad to see that. Let's see. Somehow I hit a wrong button here and I just lost Facebook. So I've got to find it again. There it is. Okay. Mary Agnes says, Jason's event has a great Qigong leader. I always think that's a great sort of physical prayer. Master Ming Tong Gu, unlock your healing potential via Qigong. So tell us about the interview with him.
Yeah, so Master Ming Tong is fantastic. He really gets down to the essence of what Qigong is all about. You know, we also talk about yoga too in this sense. You know, I think there's an idea of yoga, and I've got a little one walking.
Let's see him. Bring him up. Bring him up to say hello.
Hey, bud. Hey, come here. You want to say hi?
We don't have Geo here today, so let's say hello.
There's a microphone. And you say hi. That's Dr. Tom. You say Dr. Tom.
Dr. Tom.
Yes. Hi. What's your name?
What's your name? Okay. Can you say Skylar? Skylar. Okay.
Tyler. Hey, it's great. It's great.
So when it comes to Qigong and even things like yoga, I think we have a misconception of what these things are really all about. And they're mind-body practices that can help us get greater awareness of what's going on in the body, how to generate and cultivate energy within the body. And there's really amazing things that can happen. Okay. We're gonna go in 2 minutes. And so
he's a good timekeeper because we're already over the hour, so that's great.
But this is a good piece to end on, because Qigong, yoga, we have a couple Ayurvedic practitioners that really get into the essence of Ayurveda. And these are the exact tools that we can bring into our life to complement the functional and integrative medicines, all the things that Dr. Tom has been teaching you guys. We can bring in some of these other components that can assist, that can also work in complementary fashion. And so things like Qigong, I will say, is if you start working these into your day on a day-to-day basis, you'll start to recognize things that you weren't aware of your entire life. And it's really weird to say. And as you start to recognize
not at all. That's the goal. I mean,
crazy.
That's what we were talking about, you know, but breathing and centering yourself, and you recognize what's going on, so then you're more likely to respond. So Qigong is just an excellent physical way of centering yourself so that you can hear the chatter.
And that's just it. Yeah. And there's such subtle practices that at first, if you don't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, it can be easy to go, okay, I can't do this every day for the next month because I don't know what's going on.
Right.
But if you understand, and Master Ming Tong does a great job of giving you a sense for what to expect, what it's about, what the objective is. And when you get a grasp of that, then it becomes worth it, because even though you may not be able to feel things right away, eventually you will. And it's quite magical when that happens. When I first felt what they call the dantian, which is the energy center in your kind of lower belly, the first time I felt that, I was like, I can't believe I've walked my whole life and I've never felt my dantian. I don't understand how that's possible. These type of things can happen in these mind-body practices, and what results, the results that you get from that are hard to put into words. It actually ripples out into your entire life, your physical health, your mental, emotional well-being, your relationships, your finances, your support, your resources. these things really, really work. And it's, again, it's hard to make the logical conclusion or step as to why they work or how they work. But I can tell you that as you do them, it just starts to create magic in your life. And that's the idea here.
Amen to that. So everyone, please register for Jason's event. You might watch 1 or 2 or 7 or 20 of the interviews. You know, your time and your angels will guide you into what comes across your screen, how much of it you watch. But let's support him. It takes months and months and months to do these types of events. All the behind the scenes work and the team that has to do all this. I'm surprised, you know, because Jason is a film documentary producer, and yet he found the secret to keep his hair with natural color and
That's
keep
right.
his hair. You're like, this one, I lost this early. I didn't have the secret, but Jason, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today and for putting this event on. Thank you so very much.
And thank you for having me, and thank you for your amazing interview that you contributed. I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, man. All right, everyone. Thank you. Thanks for joining. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care.